If you know anything about attachment styles and attachment theory, you probably know that there's often a chaser puller dynamic between somebody leaning more anxious in their attachment style versus somebody leaning more avoidant. And today we're specifically going to talk about how to break this dynamic once and for all so that you can stop pulling your hair out over this dynamic, because trust me, I know it can be super challenging. I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of couples and clients go through this. But there are 3 simple steps that you can start taking today that will break you out of this constant push-pull dynamic that feels confusing and overwhelming for both individuals in this particular situation. So we're going to start with the dismissive avoidance side, and then I will come back to the more anxious leaning side and things that are required from both individuals to actually create healthy cohesion. Here's the first and really important step. All of the things that you know are going to come up in this dynamic, because trust me, you both know if you're in this push-pull dynamic or chaser-puller dynamic between the two of you, all of the things that are going to come up have strategies hashed out in advance. So what I mean by this is sit down with your partner, or even if this is somebody that you're in a long-term marriage with, somebody you're dating, obviously you shouldn't be doing this on like date 3. But I mean, like if you're in this connection where there's a long-term relationship dynamic of any form and you can have these honest conversations, go for it. And you should sit down and go, hey, here are some things that come up in our particular dynamic that I want us to work on. Number 1, it is clear that you need more time to recover after an argument than I do. Okay, so this is if you're the more anxious person. If there's a disagreement or argument, you know that the dismissive avoidant tends to shut down and stonewall. So tell this person, look, I will respect your need for space and time to process as long as you tell me that you're going to come back. Okay, this is one of the easiest ways to just navigate so that both people can feel resolved after a disagreement. And this looks like the dismissive avoidant being able to pull away and say, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need some time to process my feelings, but I'm going to come back and talk with you about this. Just give me a little bit of time. If we can take it a step further and get the dismissive avoidant to say how much time, like, hey, I just need an hour, or I need 30 minutes, or, I'm going to go home for the evening, but let's have a phone call tomorrow around lunchtime. If you can get some certainty there, you wouldn't even believe how profoundly effective this is for this dynamic. Here's why. A lot of anxious attachment styles, they think that they're needing love and reassurance. And yes, of course, that's true. But almost more than anything, they need certainty, okay? Equal to the amount of love and reassurance they need. So if you can just give them a little bit of certainty, hey, you're coming back. Hey, here's the rough amount of time. This will help them honor the space of the dismissive avoidance. So if you're an anxious attachment style, have this conversation. This is point number 1. There's 2 more really important, easy steps you can start taking today. But this is going to be one of the most important things that you can do. And if you are somebody who's just dating, you're just like beginning to date a dismissive avoidant attachment style, what this actually looks like is like if you're on like, date number 4, date number 5, you're developing feelings and you're more anxious. And the person that you're in this dating dynamic with is more avoidant. They take their time, they pull away. Obviously, that doesn't feel good for you. But how you are going to break out of this chaser puller dynamic in this particular situation is to give them the space. The more you text, the more they're going to feel like, oh, you're here when I need you. It's not even necessarily a conscious process. They're not even trying to like play games or make sure they have the upper hand. I mean, of course, there can be people who do this, but this isn't even what's happening the vast majority of the time. So even if you're dating somebody, in step 1, your version of after a disagreement or argument, honor that this person's going to need space. The more you take a step back and tell the person, be like, hey, I get that you need space. I'm going to take some time to process as well. It is up to you, if you're the anxious person, to practice self-soothing. It is important to practice self-soothing. When you come back together, request your needs, co-regulate, like say, hey, this is what I want to happen next time, so we don't fall into the same trap or argument. But give that space as much as you can. Create your own certainty by writing out like, hey, this is how I know this person is going to be a good fit for me. If they come back and they make an effort, great. This is a good fit. This is a relationship worth pursuing. If they don't, it wasn't meant to be anyways. Okay. Now this is like early dating stage. I want to go back to the overall part of the relationship. Okay. So point number 1 there, take a step back after a disagreement, but create certainty with each other. If you're in a relationship, have that discussion. If you have this discussion ahead of time, it's going to prevent like one person from walking around the house, the other person chasing after them. trying to have the dialogue again, trying to have a conversation and fix it when the other person's not ready. Like I've seen this thousands of times with couples. It just doesn't work. So that's the first point. Point number 2 in this chaser puller dynamic, what each of you need in order to help mend the relationship, help the relationship evolve in the best way possible, just so happens to be exactly what each of you need for your own healing and self-soothing, okay? And your own healing and your own growth, really. And what I mean by this is that anxious attachment styles with a dismissive avoidant, or even somebody leaning more anxious, like a fearful avoidant with an anxious side, right? Who's leaning to that anxious side of themselves. You need to learn how to self-soothe. And that means learning to meet your own needs, learning to regulate your nervous system, learning to actually sit with yourself in your body. Exactly, you learning to self-soothe is going to help the relationship. But more importantly, it is going to help you. It's going to help you heal and be the best version of yourself. It will make such a positive impact. And so if you want some help and support learning to self-soothe, some great exercises to do are breath work, meditation, mindfulness, light exercise, yoga. These are things that help you learn to regulate your own nervous system and learning to meet your own needs on a daily basis. Write out on a piece of paper everything you need, ideally from your partner, and put it into situations. So say like, okay, after an argument, on a regular basis, when we have a really busy week and we're a little disconnected, what do I need from this person? Start giving it to yourself. It will feel mechanical at first because it's conscious. Similar to like when you first learn to drive, you have to pay attention to all these things. It feels mechanical. Steer the wheel, put your signal on, look in your rear view mirror, look in your side mirrors. Like there's so many things to keep track of. But after you take some time and you actually get the opportunity to settle in, it becomes subconscious. And then driving feels easy. It feels simple. You listen to podcasts while you drive, you talk on the phone, you do these different things. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that self-soothing doesn't feel great at first until it becomes subconscious. And then it actually feels like you're receiving from yourself. And by you learning to self-soothe, you will take less pressure off of the relationship if you're anxious. And it will help you grow into yourself and be a much more confident, not just confident, but somebody who can actually honor themselves, somebody who can be kind to their own feelings, their own needs, their own boundaries, take up space, like in a healthy way. Self-soothing gives you the bandwidth to be like, oh, I'm okay with or without somebody because I feel like I can soothe. I am okay on my own. And now I'm not willing to like compromise my standards and needs in order to be in a relationship with somebody. And so that will take pressure off of the relationship. And then the dismissive avoidance side of this is that you have to learn to be the individual in the relationship who comes and is willing to make compromises sometimes. Compromises are like a prerequisite for co-regulation. When you learn, oh, this is what this person needs. I'm okay with them leaning on me a little bit. They need validation right now. Let me say something nice. Let me give a compliment. They need certainty. Let me tell them when I'm going to hang out with them next or what the time frame is looking like when we're going to hash out the argument. Like if you can make those small compromises, they usually take 2-3 seconds of time, like to give a compliment, to give some certainty. But what you'll see is that allows the other person to honor you and your needs. And you'll start learning that like, okay, I can ask for things as much as I can receive them or actually give them to somebody else. And so making healthy compromises grows you. It's an important part for the dismissive avoidant of co-regulating with somebody else, learning to soothe. Hey, we can talk to each other, attune to each other's needs, be there for each other, lean on each other. It doesn't have to be in this like monumental, monstrous way where, suddenly you never have your sense of self again, you lose your identity to each other. But truly making healthy compromises will be extremely impactful. And having the conversations about compromise in general will go a long way. And I'm going to tell you the third thing, and this is probably the most important thing, but I want to let you know before I do, if you want to go into any course that is an attachment style pairing, dismissive with fearful avoidant, anxious with dismissive avoidant, anxious with fearful avoidant, we have all of these courses that you can check out fully for free for a limited time. There's a link down below. It allows you to check out every course at PDS, but there's specifically some really powerful ones. If you search anxious dismissive or anxious fearful on your dashboard, when you go into PDS, you will see that there's a whole course that's mapped out in so much detail with workbooks, with exercises, everything for how to thrive despite having a different attachment style than somebody else. And it will help you so much to learn about yourself and learn about your partner and really how to make those healthy compromises. And you can check it out fully for free for 14 days. You can download the workbooks. You can go through some of the materials, download everything. Like it's it's there for you. Okay. So 14 days, we do this like once or twice a year. Take advantage while it lasts. I'll put the link down below. Number 3 point here to this video is that if you want to break this dynamic, you have to learn to communicate about your needs. Okay. I can't even begin to stress how important this is. This is the only way that this attachment pairing actually becomes secure. In those free courses I talked about, we go into that in a tremendous amount of detail, but for the sake of this video here on YouTube today, it is extremely important for you to be able to say, hey, I'm needing ABC. This isn't just important for the anxious attachment style. By communicating clearly and directly, you save yourself from having to criticize later, okay? Because behind every criticism is a need. If you say, you don't care about me, you never spend enough time with me, what you didn't do first was say, hey, I feel disconnected. I'd love to spend more time together. Let's plan a fun date. So what happens is you held in your need, and then because you were feeling like the need wasn't met, you reactively communicated from criticism later. It's not healthy. It definitely does not move the needle in a positive way in this dynamic. It moves the needle towards a breakup. The dismissive avoidant, on the flip side, also needs to communicate their needs. The biggest reason dismissive avoidants leave relationships all of a sudden or out of the blue is because they have a history of not communicating their needs. They're holding things in. They become resentful. They think like, hey, this really isn't working out, which is actually a translation for, hey, my needs are not being met. They don't consciously realize this isn't happening. They just suddenly feel disconnected in the relationship and they leave. And so both of you need to learn to communicate proactively, healthily, and using strategies like positive framing. Positive framing is the difference between saying, hey, you don't care about me, you don't do ABC, versus, hey, I need a little bit of XYZ. Here's what I'm looking for. Can we do this? And that is going to allow you to be seen and heard by each other in this partnership. Okay. So this is absolutely massive. I hope this helps for you. Again, check out that free trial to all of the courses, 14 days. You can get through at least a few courses, download the materials, all that good stuff. Link below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and don't want to miss any of our future videos about all attachment styles and relationships, make sure you hit the subscribe button below too.